This is Doug Stout. It's February 26, 2016. We're interviewing World War II vet Arland K. Rogers. Arland, you were telling me some interesting stories, so we wanted to make sure we got it all on tape. Tell me what happened. I mean, you were drafted, and then you went from drafted. You went to.
I worked at Owens.
Okay.
I was drafted. Worked there about a year, and then I was drafted. Went to Fort Thomas, Kentucky, was induction center. We went from there to Staten Island, New York. Had KP for 2 weeks. We wondered why we had KP.
Right.
We found out one morning, we woke up, there wasn't any ships in New York Harbor. The night before, it was full of ships. And before they went to England.
Right. So that would have been before the Normandy invasion, probably.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So then what happened after they took you off KP?
I went over to New York City.
Okay.
Worked in APO, New York. Sending mail to the troops overseas. And you might have to ask me questions.
Yeah.
We were stationed at Hotel Breslin, 29th and Broadway. We worked at the Grand Central Terminal in New York City. That's where our work was. Then we also had a branch on 8th Avenue and 29th Street.
So all the mail came into you and went out from there?
That was shipped overseas.
Okay. It all had to be hand sorted, of course,
Yep.
probably.
And a lot of people never heard of V-mail.
Right.
Okay, we had to open all those letters so they could be photographed, sent overseas on a little tape, and they redone when they got to Europe or wherever they're going, to England or wherever. And that was our job, part of it. And then a lot of it was other stuff, sorting mail and everything like that.
Did you have to censor any mail?
Not really.
Okay. Didn't have to inspect packages or things like that?
No. Mm-mm. Well, I don't think they'd done much back then. Maybe they did. We didn't do anything of that. But then I was there for about 20 or 22 months, I'm not sure.
If I can take you back to the V-mail, because I'm familiar with V-mail, I've seen it, but I never knew quite how.
It's the way it's folded.
Right.
You open it up, and you got a letter.
Right.
And we had to look at fold so they could be photographed.
Okay.
And I suppose they shipped over by plane. I don't know how they got to England or France or wherever they went.
Okay.
But of course, most of it went to England at that time.
Right.
And then before the Normandy invasion, we knew something was happening. Every APO in England changed. We didn't know what it was. Then we eventually found out it was the Normandy invasion.
Okay.
We changed everybody's mail so it would get to them when they landed in France. The mail went ahead of them.
Wow.
It's a weird situation.
Right.
But we didn't know what it was going to happen, but we knew afterwards what it was.
Right.
Everything changed.
Okay. So then you said earlier, you told me you actually haven't had your basic training yet.
Nope.
And do you think that's because, I mean, you said you raised your hands that you could type. Do you think that was
Yep.
wise?
They wanted
Because
volunteers.
They needed somebody quick
Yeah.
in the. So did you think you were going to get out of basic training that way? I mean, or
No,
I, mean,
I had not even thought about it.
I mean,
Basic training.
after they sent you to New York and you're doing your job, did you think you were going to have to you get out of basic?
I didn't really have any idea about it.
Okay.
But then, I think it was, I forget how many months it was, 20 or 22, when I was in New York City. Of course, I was married while I was there.
Okay.
And my wife moved to New York. She worked at Macy's.
Okay. And then did you guys have an apartment together then, or so you could stay with her?
29th and 8th Avenue.
Was she from New York?
Yep.
Okay. And so you're there sorting mail, and then all of a sudden they just come up and say you're going to go to basic training?
They shipped me to Fort Lee, Virginia. I was there just for basic training.
Right.
Of course, I don't remember much about it. I didn't have to do much.
Okay.
And then I was shipped to Camp Perry, Ohio.
And what they have you doing at Camp Perry?
Provost Marshal Clerk.
Okay. What did that entail?
Well, I worked in the office for a while. And then we had prisoners, Italian, German, and American prisoners. German prisoners run free. The Italians were in a compound. And we had to take care of our own prisoners. They called them prison chasers. You had so many, you go out on a work detail or something.
Right.
And then we were right close to Erie Proving Ground, which were they not demonstrated, but they fired a lot of shots and stuff. Lake Erie's full of metal from that firing from range up there.
So there were German POWs and Italian POWs sent over to the Camp Perry?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I never knew that.
Well, I don't think a lot of people didn't know that.
Right.
But the Italians were in a compound. But the Germans, they cooked their meals and done all this kind of stuff around the compound. They just run free, actually.
What was the difference between? Do you have any idea?
I have no explanation.
They behave?
Oh yes, we had no problems.
Wow. Okay, so you're Provost Marshal there.
Provost Marshal Clerk.
Clerk, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And
then we had teletype. I would teletype to Port Clinton, Ohio. Then they'd teletype it from there to 5th Service Command in Columbus. Because we were part of the 5th Service Command.
Okay. And is that where you finished out your enlistment? I shouldn't say your enlistment, your draft or your time.
I spent like 10 months maybe there, but I'm not sure exactly how much. Then I went to Camp Atterbury, Indiana.
Okay.
I think I was there 3 months, and then I was discharged in March 43.
Now.
No, 46.
When you left New York to go to your base, what did your wife do? Did she stay there and work at Macy's?
Well, she came home.
She come home. She came home.
Yep.
Okay. She didn't like New York that much.
Oh yes.
She did?
Oh yes.
Did you like New York?
Oh yeah. And during the war, this is a little oddity, traffic lights, there was a cross. All you saw was a cross just like this of light on account it didn't have lights.
Okay.
No street lights, very few of those. But when a traffic signal changed, all you would see would be a little cross in the green light.
Oh. It's a good thing there weren't many cars on the road.
Well, there wasn't. It was practically all taxis.
Yeah.
And then we marched down Madison Avenue to work to Grand Central Terminal. Marched back when our shift was done. We worked shift work all hours of the day and night. Well, I think we worked 3 shifts around the clock. We had different work a month on each shift, just like working at Owen.
I was going to say, that was just like working at Owens, wasn't it?
It actually was.
So, are there any interesting stories or anything that you haven't told that you remember, about hand on the mail or the prisoners or anything like that?
We weren't supposed to read the mail.
Right.
Of course, we always did. That's what goes by it.
Right.
Some of the craziest things you ever heard tell of in your life was in some of those letters.
Okay. We'll say no more about that. Yeah, that probably, you don't think of it, but.
No.
Yeah. You've got wives and lovers and girlfriends.
Oh, yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, stuff going on.
And I forget what month it was. There was a riot in Harlem, New York, during World War II. And they had armed guards with us, marching us to work down Madison Avenue. Armed guards with rifles.
No,
I don't think it lasted very long. I'm not sure.
Right.
It's just a little blip in my mind.
Right.
But it was a riot in Harlem. Of course, that was a rough place.
Right. I have to look back and read up on that because I don't.
Yeah, there was a riot. It's called a riot.
And so did it affect you at all yet, or they
Not
just were
really.
taking precautions just in case?
Precaution.
Okay.
But we had to march down Madison Avenue. The whole gang of us, a whole shift, marched down together to go to work.
So you had to march down together. You just couldn't go from your apartment to work.
Mm-mm.
You had to report in first, and then
Yep.
They marched you down the middle of the street, or
right down Madison Avenue.
how far was it?
Oh, several blocks. We were 28th Street, and Grand Central Terminal was about 40, around 47th Street.
Okay. And then you shared with me both brothers served at the same time. Pretty much, you guys overlapped in service.
I think we all did about the same time.
Yeah. Were you able? I mean, were you able to stay in touch with them pretty well?
Not really.
You didn't get any special mail benefits that you could.
No.
Pass
Oh, no.
things along faster. Okay. So when you came home, what did you do? Did you go back to work at Owens?
Yep. I was there 42 and a half years.
Wow.
I retired in 1985.
That's a lot of years. What else would you want people or your family or anything to know about your war service? Anything or that you can remember?
Well, a lot of it, of course, I was just a kid. It gets right over your head. You don't pay attention to it. It's just natural. You just go with the flow.
Right.
There's a few things that stuck out, not too much.
Have you gotten to do an honor flight?
Yep. I think either 2 or 3 years ago I went to Washington, D.C.
Good.
Mm-hmm.
That's some experience.
It is, yeah. That was a great experience.
Well, I appreciate you coming in and getting all this down, so that everybody can learn a little bit about you and what you did. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
We were up at Camp Perry. They called it chasing prisoners. We had a rifle, and we followed our prisoners around to work details and stuff like that. And one guy said to me, he said, "What would you do if I'd take off running?" I said, "You take off and find out." That was the end of it right there.
Right. Now, the Americans you were having to guard, what were they there for?
I have no idea.
Oh,
I don't know the circumstances,
Oh, okay.
but I know the German and Italian prisoners.
Right.
Now, a lot of these Italian had visitors because they had a lot of relatives in the United States, even during World War II. On weekends and stuff, there'd be a lot of people come up the compound. They weren't allowed to go in with them or anything, but they could talk through the fence.
And did they have more than? Would you say they had more visitors than the Germans did?
No, they were more confined, I think, than the Germans.